Well, hello everyone. I think we will just wait another minute or two. I see people are still coming on. First, I want to thank everyone at HealthFlix, at this beautiful global wellness community, for organizing this little event. Our focus today is on breath work, and in particular, breath mastery. Because it seems to me, and in my experience, that on the way to mastering our breath, we have no choice but to master our mind, master our emotions, master our body, master our energy. So it's impossible to breathe without something happening in the body and something happening chemically, physiologically, biologically, and also emotionally and psychologically, and even higher than that, spiritually. So today we're going to focus on the fundamentals of breath mastery so that I can shorten your learning curve. Why should you listen to me, Dan Brulé, from breathmastery.com? Well, for one thing, I've been teaching breathwork since 1970. Since a day early as an X-ray technician, I resuscitated someone. The person was clinically dead. And like a miracle, you use your breath. You blow into the person and they blink and they wake up. What a miracle. And so the power of our breath, we underestimate it. It's right under our nose. It's very basic. It's very simple. And so most people don't pay much attention to it. But the most powerful things in life are always the most basic, are always the most simple. So I've been teaching and studying breathwork since 1970. I spent 6 years in the military as a deep sea diver and a medical person. So I was practicing breath holding. And at the time, actually, I held a record in the Navy in 1970 for breath holding, which was only 6 minutes then. By the way, if you're curious how long a human can hold their breath these days, the record is 22 minutes and 10 seconds by my good friend Stig Severinsen. So look at the potential of humans. You know, when I was first studying medicine, we were told 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen and you have permanent brain damage. It was carved in stone, unarguable. And now you have people volunteering to hold their breath for 20 minutes. So we're talking about human potential. And in the human potential movement, breath work right now is at the leading edge. It's at the heart of the human potential movement. And so I founded the Growth Center, Inc., a growing resource organization for world transformation and healing, back in 1976 at the University of Massachusetts, where we ran our first organized breathwork practitioner training at the University of Massachusetts. And since then, I've written an article every month since June of 1976. We published an article on breathwork. Haven't missed a month since June of 1976. I probably have one of the oldest breathwork training schools in the world. And so I believe I can really, I can shorten your learning curve. I can save you a lot of time and energy. And so that's what I'm going to do now by laying down some foundations for you. It's always good to get a good coach. It's always good to practice in the presence of someone who's really good. I'm going to put these on just in case. I hope you've been hearing me since, and I hope maybe you hear me better. I apologize if you missed the beginning. So again, my name is Dan Brulé. We're here to focus on breath mastery today. Breath mastery, because in the process of mastering your breath, you master your mind, you master your emotions, you master your body. Through breath work, you can manage your emotional state. You can manage your psychological state. You can hack into your nervous system, into your immune system. You can take over so-called involuntary processes. And so the breath is a very powerful tool, very basic, very simple, but the basic, simple things in life are always the most powerful. So I've been teaching breathwork since 1970, and we opened our school in 1976 at the University of Massachusetts. And so here we are. And so what I'd like to do is, this is a really important time too, because right now the world is in a really unusual and unique place. And we are being called to turn to inner resources, to maybe reinvent yourself, reorient yourself to your life, to your career. This is a good pause. This is a forced pause in the world right now a good time to learn new skills, a good time to take up a new hobby, a new healthy habit, maybe a good time to kick an old habit. And here's the thing about habits. We have breathing habits. Breathing is a behavior. And if you can't change your breathing habits, good luck changing anything else. But if you can change your breathing habits, changing other habits is so much easier, especially when you learn to tap into the power of the breath to draw energy and to let go of things that are holding you back. So what is breath work? Breath work is the art and science of using conscious breathing and breath awareness as a tool for health, for growth in body, mind, and spirit. It's a tool for change. Breath work is the new yoga. Breath work is the Swiss Army knife of life. What do you want to change in your life? What do you want to charge? What do you want to release? You can focus on your breath and you can master breathing exercises and techniques that will do this, will help you do it. Strengthen your immune system. Really powerful. Okay, so two basic aspects of breath work. One is breath awareness. And what I'm asking you to do is to begin to focus on your breathing. Notice how you breathe. Do it as a meditative ritual first thing in the morning, where you don't breathe in any special way. You simply observe your breath, tune into your breathing, sense your breathing, listen to it, watch it, be with it. You don't have to breathe in any special way. You let the breath come and go by itself. You allow the breath of life to breathe you. And you get more and more intimate in your relationship to the breath. So you need to do that in the morning and in the evening. And maybe in midday would be a good time. 5 minutes, maybe in the morning, 5 minutes at lunch, 5 minutes at the end of the day. Disconnect, unplug, turn your phone off, sit still, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing. And you will be developing mindfulness, something that's useful everywhere in life. You'll be developing meditative awareness. You'll be nurturing the witness in yourself, which the Buddha recognized as our essence, that witness, the essence of the Buddha. We want to develop that. Observe your thoughts, observe your feelings, observe your reactions, observe your behaviors. And that all begins by practicing the art of observing. And we master that art of observing by observing the breath. When you become more aware of your breathing, you become more aware, period. When you become more conscious of your breath, you become more conscious of your posture, your emotions, your reactions, your environment, your situation. So it's very powerful. That's the first aspect, and it's a passive practice. It's pure breath awareness. The second is conscious breathing. This is where you come in. This is where you breathe with a certain pattern. You give the breath a certain quality. You pace your breathing. You control your breathing. You bring some intention to the breath. Now you have taken over from the automatic pilot, and you are in charge of delivering energy to yourself and relieving yourself of toxins. We have to remember that 70% of the metabolic waste in our biological system is eliminated through breathing. 70%, only 3% through defecation, 7% through urination, 20% through perspiration, and that leaves the mother load of toxins to be released through the breath. So if you think working up a good sweat, having good bowel movements, exercising is a good idea, you have to think about breathing if you want to stay healthy. So we have breath awareness and we have conscious breathing. Now, I teach breath work under a formula of transformation. And that formula has 3 ingredients. Awareness, it's the consciousness factor. And the message is wake up. We have internal potential that we've never realized. We have abilities that we have not developed. And there are things happening in us and around us that we are oblivious to. And so becoming more conscious, becoming more aware, waking up is the call of our day. We need to wake up. The second ingredient is relaxation. It's the release factor. And the message is let go. Maybe a lot of the problems that we're working on, maybe we just need to let them go. Maybe a lot of the things that you're struggling with, maybe you just need to let them go. And so we practice breath work, and one of the basic skills is learning to let go. And we use the exhale. So you learn how to let go of your exhale, to release your exhale, to snap your exhale loose, to set your exhale free. And you are mastering the ability of letting go. Because if you want to let go of pain, or if you want to let go of fear, or you want to let go of anxiety, or you want to let go of some illness or some negative thought or some ancient dysfunctional belief, you have to have the ability to let go. And so don't be surprised if you haven't learned how to let go of your breath. Don't be surprised if you can't let go of pain. If you haven't learned how to let go of your exhale, don't be surprised if you can't let go of thoughts roaming around in your head. If you haven't learned how to let go of your breath, don't be surprised if you cannot let go of pain or fear or anxiety. But if you master the skill of releasing the exhale, letting your exhale go, you will be surprised at what else you can let go of. So there's the formula for transformation. Wake up, let go, and the third ingredient is take charge. And that third ingredient in the formula is breath. It's breathing. It's the energy factor. And the message is take charge. So I just took a sigh of relief, and you could call that one of the first conscious breathing techniques. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be difficult. A sigh of relief, you already know how to do it. Do it right now while I'm talking. What is a sigh of relief? A sigh of relief is an inhale that is twice as big as normal. The sigh of relief starts with an inhale that's twice as big as your average breath. That extra stretch, that extra expansion triggers the release and the relaxation and the relief that occurs when we sigh. So do that consciously right now. Take in an inhale, make it twice as big as normal, and then let it go quickly and completely. Snap it loose. Let it go. Set it free. You've just learned the first conscious breathing technique. And it's really not a technique at all, is it? It is a natural response. When you are in pain, locked up in pain, the breath is locked up. And when the pain goes away, what happens to the breath? It can open and expand. It can release. It can flow again. What happens when you're in anxiety or you're afraid and a panic? The breath is stuck. The breath is locked up. And not until that fear and that anxiety passes does a sigh of relief come. So what we've learned is that every time, if you're in pain or fear and the pain or fear passes, a sigh of relief naturally, automatically expresses. You don't do it. You don't make it happen. It happens by itself because your state just changed. And that's a two-way street. Every emotional state, every psychological state, every physiological, biological, chemical state, every energetic state, every spiritual state has a corresponding breathing pattern, an associated breathing pattern. And when one changes, the other changes. And it doesn't matter which one changes first. When one changes, the other changes. And so when you change the way you are breathing, you change your state. You change your emotional state, your psychological state, your biochemical state, your spiritual state. So breathing is the best way, the quickest way to clear your head, settle your nerves, calm your stomach, and open your heart. And you can do it on demand. You can relax on demand. You can wake up on demand. You can energize yourself on demand when you master your breath. Start with a sigh of relief. Breathe in consciously. Take your time. Feel the breath. Feel the subtle sensations. Feel what moves. Notice the sounds. Make it a meditative practice, a powerful moment of mindfulness, of pure awareness. As you're breathing in, Track the sensations of the breath coming in your nose, in the back, high up in your sinuses, in your throat. Feel the movement in your chest, feel the movement in your belly. Track those sensations in a meditative way. Take an inhale that's twice as big as normal, and then snap the exhale loose. Release the exhale. Let the exhale go. Set it free. Don't let it out slowly. Don't let it out carefully. Don't hold it back. Don't control it. Snap it loose. Release it. Let it go. And when you release the exhale, release your jaw, release your neck, release your shoulders. So you are relieving yourself of physical tension in the moment that you release the breath, and the breath will carry away that tension that you loosen and soften and release. So I live in the desert here. I live in Los Cabos in the Baja in Mexico. We have a little paradise here off the grid. We're protected here. It's easy to practice social distancing these days. We have gardens, we have orchards. We're eating fresh fruit and veggies from our gardens and orchards every day. We're really in a piece of paradise. We're really blessed to have began this project 15 years ago and been watching it develop over the years. So we're kind of fortunate. But here in the desert, and we're in an oasis in the desert we've actually created here at Baja Biosana. But in the desert, we have hard packed soil. And when it rains, the water just hits the surface and washes along the surface and makes its way out to the sea. But if you soften the soil, if you loosen the soil, if you turn the soil, then when it rains, the soil drinks up that water. This is about relaxation and breathing. If you're not relaxing while you're breathing, the prana, the chi, the ki, the energy that you get from the breath cannot penetrate you. You must be open and soft and relaxed in order for that breath energy to penetrate you. So breathing and relaxation go together. And for breathing and relaxation to go together requires awareness, consciousness. So there's the formula. We also promised that we would talk about the 5 principles of breath therapy. This is an entire week of seminar on breath therapy, but I'm going to give you the quickie here. The first principle of breath therapy is the technique. There are thousands of breathing techniques, thousands of yogic breathing exercises, thousands of Taoist, Chinese, Qigong breathing exercises, exercises for all kinds of breathing exercises. Yeah? And so breath therapy starts with breathing technique, a breathing exercise, because the technique has power. If you have anything like normal physiology, you know, we have reflexes. If you do something, you're going to get a reaction, right? And so if you are anywhere near normal, when you change your breathing, you are going to change something. You're going to have a reaction in your system to that change in your breathing. So techniques are very powerful. And so we spend a lot of time working and honing and mastering different techniques for different purposes. You want balance, you breathe in a certain way. You want more energy, you breathe in another way. You want to become very calm, very still, very peaceful. You breathe in another way. And so we choose and we pick breathing exercises depending on what's needed in the moment. And we do further work of training our breathing mechanism so it responds perfectly by itself in times of stress, in times of anxiety, in times of pain. The breath will come to you and it will serve you. The second ingredient is the atmosphere in which you practice the technique. Now, there are powerful atmospheres, certain groups. Things can occur in a certain community, in a certain spiritual group that couldn't occur. There's something powerful about group energy. And there are also powerful places, healing places on the planet. Sit by the ocean, sit in nature, sit by a waterfall. Places where ley lines connect in the earth. There were power centers on the earth, and you don't even need a technique. You just sit in certain atmospheres in certain places, and healing happens, growth happens, awakening happens. So the atmosphere is very important. The internal atmosphere, your psychological atmosphere, your emotional atmosphere, your consciousness, the atmosphere in which you live, right? The second ingredient, second element in breath therapy. The third is the presence of the teacher, right? Water only rises to its own level. There is something about breath work that involves a transmission of energy, a transmission of skill, an initiation, a transference of abilities. That's a real phenomenon. I was able to do things in the presence of my masters that I haven't been able to do on my own because of their presence. I had extra power. I had extra knowledge, information, abilities. There's something powerful about the presence of a teacher. And so it's our responsibility to be our own teacher and to seek out teachers that you can catch things from, like a virus. You can catch peace. You can catch joy. You can catch knowledge and skills and abilities by hanging out with people who have done a lot of work on themselves. So the third element in this principle of breath therapy is the presence of the teacher. The fourth element is the mind of the breather. The mind of the breather is so powerful, it can neutralize a teacher. It can neutralize a technique. It can pollute an atmosphere, or it can charge an atmosphere. The mind of the breather is a very important element in breath therapy. What do you dare to believe? What are you willing to experience? What are you expecting? What are you determining to accomplish? What is your attitude? Really powerful principle, right? Consciousness of the breather, the mind of the breather. What do you believe is possible? And what is your intention? And how much intention can you bring to each breath? How much passion? How much enthusiasm? That's going to make a big difference in the results that you get from breath work. Then the fifth element is, I don't even know what to call it, and so I call it something else. It's a magical factor. It's a mystical factor. I like the concept of grace, the biblical concept of grace. You can't earn it. You can't deserve it. You can't seduce it. You can't buy it. You can't work your way towards it. It's given to you. It's some magical, some mystical factor. I don't know what it is, but I know it's working, because you can do the technique wrong. You can do it in a terrible atmosphere. You can do it with a lousy teacher. You can do it for all the wrong reasons, and still a miracle can happen. And that's why I know that something else is at work here. There's a wild card that's at work here. And I don't know what it is, so we just call it something else. So what I'd like to do is, we have about 7 minutes left, and we'll open it up to some Q&A and some chats. You can be posting questions in the chat box now, or in the Q&A box, and I'll check them in a couple of minutes. But what I want to give you is what we call our 2 core techniques. The 2 core techniques. And let me back up a little bit, because I came out of the military world. I was a deep sea diver. I was an underwater rescue specialist, emergency medicine specialist. When there was a shitstorm, that's when I worked. If everything was going nicely, I had nothing to do but try to prevent things from happening. And so if I was called, it was because something terrible was happening. High stress, life and death situations, fire in the building, someone drowning, a storm tipping a ship over, you name it, right? And what I learned in that atmosphere was that we have 2 kinds of people. One kind of person freezes, and a train can be coming. A train is coming, a train is coming. And they get hit by the train, and everybody else watched it happen, and they thought, oh my God, all they had to do was move over 1 foot. Why did they freeze? They saw the train coming. It's a strange human phenomenon. And the other kind of person is somebody who runs around like a chicken with their head cut off, yelling a bunch of ridiculous orders, doing a bunch of stuff that isn't helping anyone. And you can see in these times right now with the coronavirus that we have those kind of people. Some people just go into paralysis. They don't know what to think. They don't know what to do. They don't know who to believe. They don't know where to go. And they just freeze and go into paralysis. And the other kind of people are just doing all kind of weird things, believing all kind of things, all kind of crazy ideas that haven't been proven, and doing a lot of useless stuff that isn't going to help. And so breathwork brings us into a place where you can be conscious and awake and make clear decisions. And you can be relaxed and calm. Breathwork takes us to the eye of the storm. You can't make storms go away. We haven't mastered the weather. You can't do anything about storms. The best thing you can do is learn to navigate them, Don't try to run away from them because some storms you cannot run away from. You've got no choice. But when you're in a storm, you're being pushed and pulled and thrown and spun and kicked and shoved and pressed and so you got to find your way to the eye of the storm where it's perfectly calm and clear. And from that place, you make better decisions. You take better actions. You're connected to your source. Right? So there's an intention for breathing. When you breathe in, have the intention to quiet your mind, to connect to your spirit, your intuition, to relax and open and soften so you're available for energy and spirit. And then give yourself a breath that has a quality and a frequency that the rest of your body and your mind can now entrain to. You establish a certain pattern with your breathing, and your body catches that pattern. You establish a certain pattern with your breathing, and your mind expresses and reflects that pattern. Right? So you choose the state you want to be in. We are not a victim of anything. We humans can solve any problem. We have inner resources we haven't tapped. Use the breath to tap them. We have abilities that you haven't developed. Use the breath to develop and strengthen those abilities. So the first core technique is what I already mentioned, the sigh of relief. Take your time, put as much juice into it as you can, as much detailed awareness, as much consciousness, as much loving intention, as much passion and enthusiasm as you can. And then let go. It's a sigh of relief. That's the first core technique. Practice it. And don't wait till it comes by itself. Deliver it to yourself ahead of time. Stay ahead. My good friend Mark Devine said it's a lot easier to keep up than it is to catch up. And I say it's a lot easier to stay ahead than it is to keep up or catch up. So we stay ahead of our pain, our tension, our confusion with conscious breathing. The second core technique is what's called continuous breathing, connected breathing. In the elite warrior world, it's called tactical breathing. It's called rebirthing in the New Age. Find that book. It was written by Leonard Orr and Sandra Ray. It was one of the first books that gave form and shape to the modern breathwork movement in the world. The rebirthing technique is active inhale, passive exhale, with no pauses or gaps between the breaths. In other words, it's circular. Inhale turns into the exhale. Exhale turns into the inhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. No pauses, no gaps, no holding, no pushing, no forcing, no straining. A smooth wheel of breath spinning, free and easy. A smooth, connected, conscious, connected, circular breathing pattern, continuous breathing. Master those two techniques, because what we realize and what I realized in the military was those two kind of people who freeze or just lose it and go crazy. You can pick them out ahead of time by studying their breathing patterns when they're under stress. That was such an enlightening discovery for me, that I could predict those people. And then I knew how to deal with them when the poop hits the fan. Right? And what we realized was that those two core breathing techniques, the ability to open and expand, relax and let go, that's a sigh of relief. Open and expand, relax and let go. Open and expand, relax and let go. Under stress, when someone is locked up in pain or panic or fear, they cannot access that breath. But if you can access that breath, you start to move yourself out of that state of pain and fear. So it's vital that you learn it and then remember to use it when you need it. And the second breathing pattern that was impossible or difficult to access under intense stress or pain was that smooth, steady, gentle, flowing breath. And so if you master those two breathing patterns, and then you check on them when you enter a stressful situation, and you keep them both alive in you, keep your access to them alive and in the moment, then you can navigate the most difficult times of your life with an ease and a grace that you would think only comes from great warriors or spiritual masters. In fact, my book, Just Breathe, Mastering Breathwork for Success in Life, Love, Business, and Beyond, that synopsis of my book is exactly that all the great high states and extraordinary abilities that we once reserved only for the great gurus and masters and mystics and saints and the ancient warriors, those same states and those same extraordinary abilities are accessible to anyone with a belly button, anyone who can breathe, that we can achieve those same states just through the breath. So there you have my basic breath mastery wrap. I'm looking at the Q&A here, and let's see what we got. Thank you, Dan, for this. I did some sighing as you instructed and ending up doing a number of yawns. Does yawning take place? Aha, the expulsion of CO2 and increased CO2 or O2. Anything different? Thank you, Nikki. Listen, thank you for mentioning yawning. That's an advanced technique, but let's call it a basic technique. And here, I'm going to give you something. I was originally paid $10,000 the first time I gave this little technique. It was the most I had ever charged, but this was the most vital group that I ever worked with. They had the most money, and so I didn't blink. But it is the most powerful thing. I believe it's the most cutting edge thing. You heard what I said about a sigh of relief. You heard what I said about the continuous connected breathing, spinning the breath like a wheel. Now you add the yawn to that. Make yourself yawn. Trigger a yawn. Anyone can make themselves yawn. Make yourself yawn right now. Everybody who's listening. Wiggle your jaw. Do something to your throat. Activate your yawning reflex. And make yourself yawn. Keep doing it till your eyes water. Let yourself stretch and move. Use sound. Link it to that circular breathing. Combine yawning and circular breathing. Combine the sigh of relief and circular breathing. Combine yawning and a sigh of relief. Yawning is powerful. You know, neuroscientists say they cannot find any other singular activity that lights up more parts of the brain, that has more neurological benefits than a simple yawn. Listen, we don't yawn enough. Yawn on purpose. Yawn because it just feels good. It tastes good. It's delicious. It's good for you. And you'd be surprised what else, the benefits you can get from it. Conscious yawning, and combine yawning with a sigh of relief, and combine yawning with circular breathing. I just gave you the most cutting edge technique that I have. Think about that. So thank you for that question. Thank you for bringing up yawning. Yes, yawning is yoga. Yawning is yoga. When you yawn, you stretch. When you yawn, you breathe. But most people, when they yawn, they freeze. Everything's open. It's a perfect time to flow. So move your breath when you yawn. It's magic. It will change your state. If you've been practicing it while I've been talking, and you are at all sensitive to your energy, to your emotions, and you know that you just changed your state. It's unarguable. And the more you practice and the more you master it, the more powerful effect it has on changing your state. Here's another one. Do you have some tips on practicing these techniques when it's easy to forget or get distracted and not be disciplined? Yeah, the answer is training. I wish I wish there was a way around it. But when you react automatically, you react according to your training. And so if you've trained yourself to breathe, when you're under stress, you're going to breathe. Most people have done a lot of training. They just they haven't done the kind of training that really serves them. Like every day they get upset for 50 different things. They get upset because somebody said something. They get upset because somebody did something. They get upset because somebody didn't say something. They didn't do something. They get upset because of the economy. And now everybody's upset because of the virus. And so people have practiced, they've trained in becoming upset. They practice being upset every day. And so now they're so damn good at it, anything can upset them. That's the power of training. So you have to practice every day. I wish there was a way around daily practice, but I don't think there is. Daily practice sets your thermostat. It sets your automatic pilot. And so in times of stress, you don't have to think about it. You don't need discipline. I'm a lazy bastard. I'm the first one to admit it. And I'm not big on discipline. But if you love what you're doing and you're getting benefit from it, you don't need discipline. You're naturally moved to do it because of the pleasure, because of the benefits, because of the joy, because of the aliveness. And so training is the answer. If you practice every day deliberately, when you need it, it'll just happen. When my life was in danger, the first time I had a real life and death, I was a scuba diver, I was diving in the military. I had problems with my air. And what happened? My training kicked in. I didn't think about it. I just started to go through the steps that I had been trained to do. We had trained again and again and again and again. And so when that moment came, I didn't even think. My training kicked in. That's the answer to this. You have to train in being loving, train in being calm, train in being clear, train in being mindful, train in being relaxed, train in breathing. And then when you need it, it'll work for you. Me again, someone named Nikki. Nikki, doing continuous breathing, I'm yawning. Slept well, didn't it? Yes, yawning is beautiful. Welcome a yawn when it comes. And if it doesn't come by itself, invite it. Yawning is a miracle. The continuous breathing technique makes me feel stressed, similar to hyperventilating. Tips on not feeling like this. I don't want to be rude here, but get over it. Get over it. We have to go through temporary periods of discomfort. Whenever we learn, whenever we grow, you can expect to go through temporary periods of discomfort. But it is temporary. And the temporary hyperventilation, the temporary stress, what a small price to pay for a lifetime of benefits. But that also might be a matter of skill. If you haven't trained directly with a good coach, I don't know what you're actually doing when you do connected breathing. Maybe you're using muscles you don't have to. Maybe you're forcing, maybe you're pushing, maybe you're straining. Maybe you're not relaxing enough, and that accounts for these symptoms. I would have to watch you. I would have to touch you, feel you, see you, listen to you to give you a really accurate answer. But in my experience, that comes from a few different sources. One is simply the lack of training. Hey, when you first learned how to walk, you kept falling down and bumping your head and scraping your knee. That didn't stop you from learning how to walk. When you learn how to swim, you swallow some water. That didn't stop you from learning how to swim. When you learn how to breathe, you might trigger hyperventilation symptoms. So what? You're learning. That's not the point of it, but with skill, that stops happening. Does that make sense to you? I hope so. So lack of skill, lack of training, too much force, no connection to your body. You're not listening to your body. You don't have enough body awareness. You don't have enough heart intelligence to listen to your soul, to listen to your spirit. Well, fortunately, breathwork awakens body intelligence. Breathe into your belly and awaken your body intelligence. Breathe into your chest and awaken your heart intelligence. And send the breath up into your head and awaken mind intelligence. And send the breath beyond that and connect to higher powers. Send the breath lower than that and connect to the energy of the earth. There are Taoist techniques and Qigong techniques and yoga techniques and spiritual breathing techniques that take us into all these places. You can start on your own. If you'd like to learn more, go to breathmastery.com, get my book, Just Breathe. We're all over Facebook. You're welcome to free stuff everywhere, YouTube. If you're ready, the teacher will appear. If you're ready, the technique, the next book you open will have the technique. The next teacher you meet will have the answer. The next book you read, the next technique you practice will give you what you need. But it's more than just the book or the technique or the teacher. It's about readiness. If you're not ready, the best teacher in the world and the best techniques and the best books will do nothing for you. But if you're ready, any technique, any teacher is good. Because you're ready, you're going to make something work, even if you have to make it up yourself. Right? Loving it, Dan. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there a particular technique that you would recommend for help with AHDA? What were we talking about? Listen, clearing your head, quieting your mind, dropping into your body, getting in touch with the loving center of yourself. This fixes so many things. And so AHDH, well, the best, if you have optimal breathing chemistry, that'll help you. If you have a good attitude and a powerful spirit, that'll certainly help you. And if you practice mental disciplines and you develop, have a little protocol that you go through, a 3 or 4 breath technique that brings you into your center, that gets you to focus. We didn't even have a name for this stuff. When I was a kid, thank God, we didn't have a label because I would have been drugged as a child. I probably had all this crap. I had AHDH and I had all that crap as a kid. And thank God there was no name for it, no label for it, and I wasn't drugged. And my mother didn't make a big deal out of it. And so maybe a lot of what we're dealing with is self-created. How we react to things is everything. We have the event, we have our experience of the event, but in between, we have our reaction to the event. How do we look at it? What meaning do we give it? How does our system react to it? And you can step in at that point and choose your response, which changes your experience. And you don't have to change the event. People are living with all kinds of issues that are not affecting their life. They don't have to make them go away. They just learn how to manage them. They learn how to spin it, what attitude to have towards it, what to tell yourself about it, the meaning you apply to it, your body and mind's reaction to it. And so you want to train your body mind system to react by opening and expanding, relaxing and letting go, by flowing, by centering. And you'd be surprised how many answers come to you by yourself, come all by themselves. I'm looking in the chat box now. Give an example of a breath that is energizing and reaction, and energizing and relaxing. I'm using pursed lips. I'm giving the inhale a U shape. I'm charging myself. I have that intention. I'm pulling the breath in a powerful way, but not with effort. And then I let go completely. Energizing, relaxing. What do you think about Hoff's technique? I love Wim Hof. Breathe, motherfucker. I love Wim. I've known him for years, a brilliant, wonderful guy. His method may not be right for everyone at different times. Different techniques are good for different people. He's got a beautiful technique. And I consider breathwork to be an art. And if I'm an artist and I have a palette and I'm a painter, do I want one color on my palette? Sure, there's many shades and textures of that color, but don't I want a lot of colors on my palette? Wim Hof technique is one of thousands of techniques. Just because they're not out there being advertised and they're not popular doesn't mean they're not out there and powerful. So I love Wim's technique. It's one of many techniques. I love it. I love him. And so I won't say anything more. Well, I think we're up to 45 minutes, or we have a minute going. Let me see if I can take one more question. I really want to thank you for your attention. If you have been paying attention, I hope I haven't been talking to myself for the last 45 minutes. I hope the sound has been good. I hope the video is good. Thank you for paying attention. Good luck in your practice and many blessings on your path. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dan Brulé, signing out.